Hello everyone, I'm Nick Peters and this is Deeper Waters Apologetics. You can find us at deeperwatersapologetics.com. Today I'm going to be talking about this book from Zondervan, Do Christians, Muslims, and Jews Worship the Same God? Edited by Ronnie Camber and Christopher Nanikin. It includes contributors such as William Andrew Schwartz, John B. Cobb Jr., Francis Beckwith, Gerald R. McDermott, Jerry L. Walls, Joseph L. Cumming, and David W. Schenck. The first 5 are writing major chapters, last 2 are giving essays with contributing thoughts. This all comes about after an incident that happened at Wheaton College, which is a very evangelical school, and the professor came to work wearing his job there, and saying that she was standing in solidarity with Muslims to some extent. And that led to quite an uproar in the evangelical world. And the question arose, do Christians, Muslims, and Jews worship the same God? Now, in this work, Schwartz and Cobb Jr. argue that, yes, we all do. Francis Beckwith argues that we all have the same referent in mind for God. J.R. McDermott says Jews and Christians worship the same God. And Jerry Walls says none worship the same God. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the arguments therein at this point because it's best that you read it for yourself. The fascinating thing about these books is that you have the people write out their essays so you can get their thoughts, and then everyone else critiques them. And then in this one also, the original writer or writers of the essay come back and respond to the critiques. And in the end, Cumming and Schenck each write their own chapters, which both of them were about evangelizing Muslims, which I thought, okay, that's good, but wouldn't it have made sense to have a chapter on evangelizing Muslims and one on evangelizing Jews? Because there seems to be little done in the work of reaching Jewish people. About the only people I can usually think of doing this are people like Michael Brown and Eric Chabot and others. It's a very small portion. You can think of several people who are doing great work on Islam. Abdu Murray, David Wood, Andy Bannister, many others, Robert Spencer. You just could keep naming them on and on. Very little about Jewish people. Now, when it comes to the idea of we all do worship the same God, my problem with the approach given was that, there are many Christianities. And if Christianity can be made to mean anything, it means nothing. There has to be something essential, even though there are many things that we all disagree on. I've spent time with people of my own Protestant tradition and with people in the Catholic and Orthodox traditions, and I've learned from all of them. And there are things we all do hold in common that would separate us from people like, say, Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons, which would have been interesting to have seen some feedback on that. I think definitely, for instance, Mormonism is an entirely different God. God in that sense is very a material being that was just created by someone bigger than him, and you kind of gotta wonder, okay, who's the original God behind all this? How can I get to him? So, really, to say we all worship the same God doesn't really convince me. Now, Francis Beckwith has a great chapter in here where he says we all have the same kind of reference for God, and I have some sympathies for this view. It doesn't hurt that he has a Superman analogy right at the start. Now, if you're talking about general theistic arguments, I'd say that Muslims, Christians, and Jews can all use the exact same arguments to argue for general theism. At that point, everything differs when we get to special revelation, so I don't think the same referent argument just works as well for me. This isn't against Beckwith. I think Beckwith's an awesome guy, and if you ever get a chance to hear him speak, you should take it up. He's extremely funny to listen to. He grew up in an area with a lot of comedians. I think it was Vegas, and he knows how to make you laugh. Gerald McDermott, he says that Islam has radically different notions of God, such as the concept of relationship between God and love. But in his opinion, only the Sufi tradition really highlights the love of God. For the others, God loves Muslims, not so much everyone else. And so he says this is a different God, but when you read Acts and you see him going into the synagogues, there's never anything about a different God. The Bible often speaks of your God, their God, etc., using common language to describe Jews and Christians in that sense. Again, I have some sympathies for that position, but I concluded with Jerry Walls at the end still, because the main difference I come down to is the Trinity and the person of Jesus. We see them different, and when special revelation comes, you have a different idea of what God is like, because God is essentially a Trinity, and Jesus is essentially the Son of God, in that he's fully God and fully man. It's not to say the other views didn't give me anything to think about. Of course they did, and the question is probably far from settled, and everyone who contributed in this, I'm pretty sure, is just as certain as they were before. But if you're interested, it is worth checking out. I did like that Jerry Walls did bring up the issue of salvation. I wish more of them had brought that up to discuss it, because I think it could probably be universally agreed that the other views aren't very salvific in any sense. That's not to say there couldn't be any true worshippers of God and who just haven't gotten enough light or something of that sort. And we know several stories of Muslims coming to Christianity because of dreams. Even Nabil Qureshi was influenced by dreams to become a Christian. So God can reach people where he wants to, even where there isn't communication from a direct human being, such as an evangelist. We should come there and try to do evangelism, but it's not a guarantee that if we don't do that, everyone's completely lost. The question of those who've never heard is, again, a separate question, but we should pray that there will be specks of light within communities outside of Christianity where the true gospel is held. Now, I'm going to put a link to the book on Amazon in the video description, so if you want to see that and check it out, I highly encourage it. It's a great read. Whichever side you come on, you'll probably learn something from it anyway. For now, I am Nick Peters, I'm signing off, and I affirm the virgin birth.